Witness testimony back underway in former President Trump's New York criminal trial. On the stand right now, the executive director of archives at C-SPAN. We're also learning that the court's decision on Trump's gag order violations, the judge actually threatening, listen to this, to throw him in jail. We'll have a live report this hour. But first, we're waiting to see what happens next at Columbia University. Anti-Israel agitators now occupy a building on Columbia's campus. That happened last night. The mob actually took over Hamilton Hall. It was around 1 a.m., smashing glass, barricading doors, and raising the Palestinian flag, even keeping a few workers there at the university barricaded for a short time. As well as a banner, they had this that read Intifada. That occupation's still going on as we speak, and we're getting new reaction from the Biden administration. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Campagno. Also joining us, host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy, and host of Jesse Watters Primetime. We are so excited to have him, co-host of The Five and author of Get It Together, #1 New York Times bestseller, Jesse Watters. But first, let's go to Bryan Llenas. He's live at Columbia University with more. Bryan.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Look, this is just happened in the last 10 minutes. We saw 4 protesters at Hamilton Hall. This is the building that has been occupied now for going on 12 hours. They unfurled a brand new banner, and it says, "Glory to the Martyrs." And that is right next to the other banner that's been here since we got here at 4 o'clock in the morning. It says, "Free Palestine." That is Hamilton Hall. That is home to undergraduate admissions, the Columbia College Office of the Dean, and that is the building that has been occupied reportedly by dozens of these student protesters since about 12:30 this morning. Now, just a few moments ago, someone representing those student protesters, presumably a student protester herself, came out and spoke to some of the media, and this is what she had to say. Listen.
That would be up to the individual discretion of students. Nobody's being forced to remain. Nobody's being forced to protest. The students are here because of their own personal, heartfelt commitment to the Palestinian cause and to the wish of divestment. That being said, it would again be incredibly short-sighted of the university to expel a huge number of its students, especially considering how much consensus this matter has on campus. I strongly believe that it would galvanize the rest of the campus community to help their peers as well.
So remember, all of this happened after the 2 p.m. deadline expired yesterday and Columbia University began suspending students. There you have one of those spokespeople for the student protesters saying, if you expel us, it's going to make things even worse. They did say they are open to continued negotiations about their 3 main things they want, which is divestment from Israeli companies, transparency about those companies, and ultimately they want universal amnesty so that they're not punished for doing what they've done over the last 12 hours of barricading themselves in the building and continuing the encampment. I want to show you over here, that is a blue tent. It is now limited access into the main campus of Columbia University during final exam time. Only those who are essential personnel and students who live on campus are allowed in right now. We have seen students being denied, and we spoke to one of those students who was denied entry earlier today. Listen. Do you want to see the NYPD come in here?
No, I don't. In fact, that was one of the most disruptive elements of the past few weeks. You know, I've been very concerned to see the amount of guns and armaments around the campus, and I'm not happy with the presence of the NYPD. I think anytime you have NYPD, it's not...
Even though you can't eat food and you're trying to study, you don't want the NYPD to come in here and break up what's going on.
Hey, look, I'm developing these types of answers to these types of questions over breakfast, so chat with me later today. I'll tell you how I feel.
Yeah, the NYPD just wrapped up a separate press conference, guys, and said, frankly, they're just waiting for the Columbia University. They will only go in if Columbia University gets the green light. We have not heard from the university about what specifically they're going to do next. The only thing they've sent out is that campus alert telling everybody that there is now limited access to the main campus of this university during a pivotal time, finals for these students, guys.
Wow, glory to the martyrs. Recall these so-called martyrs put babies in ovens. Never forget that. Bryan Llenas, unbelievable. Thank you very much. You know, I want to focus on the White House response to this, and I want to talk a little bit about cause and effect. And what I surmise is, in fact, a cause and effect. Let's listen to the former president talk about this in the White House response. Listen.
The Biden protests that are going on are horrible. It's all caused by him because he doesn't know how to speak. He can't put 2 sentences together. He's got to get out and make a statement. because the colleges are being overrun in this country.
So there's Trump saying Biden should put out a statement, and then it was minutes later that we don't get a statement from the commander-in-chief. No. We get a statement from the deputy press secretary, Andrew Bates, Jesse, saying this: President Biden has stood against repugnant anti-Semitic smears, violent rhetoric his entire life. He condemns the use of intifada, as he has the other tragic and dangerous hate speech displays. He goes on to condemn the takeover of buildings. So former president asks, current president responds.
So, yeah, when he was frolicking in the woods on Earth Day with AOC, he was asked about this action, and he said, well, I have a program to deal with it. Do you know what the program is? Yeah, have you ever heard of the antisemitism Joe Biden program? I've never heard of it. It's news to me. And you look at what's happening, and I say this as a father of four with affection. Criminals and children have a lot in common. If you run a household with no bedtime, they can eat whatever they want, they can talk back to you however you want, it's going to be a bad day, day after day after day, if every threat's an empty threat. Same thing with criminals. You can't say, oh, you can steal just under $900, or you can walk out of jail with no bail, do whatever you want. If you're an illegal, shh, we won't tell ICE. That's what happened at Columbia yesterday. They had a deadline. The red line was 2 o'clock. What happened after 2 o'clock? Nothing. Yeah. So what they've done now is they've seized the building. And it would have been much easier to disrupt the little caliphate on the quad, because you can't go into a building and lay siege to it. They have running water. They have a bathroom. They know the entrance and the exit points. And it's going to get much trickier. And a lot of the faculty love it because they cut their teeth in the Vietnam era. But that was a peace movement. That was about make love, not war. This is about make war. And so you got to just buckle down, say no, say get it together. And you can't just let these red lines get blown out.
So Columbia, you're exactly right, didn't enforce the red line. University of Florida, very proud of their response. Listen to this, Harris. This is not complicated. The University of Florida is not a daycare. We do not treat protesters like children. They knew the rules. They broke the rules. They'll face the consequences. Today, individuals who refused to comply were arrested after multiple warnings. That's how you handle this.
Well, look, even Yale University got it together. I mean, last hour we had Molly Line, and the encampment's gone. There are some people outside the police tape now, and even that crowd, she said, dissipated a short time ago. It went on for days there, and now it's gone. Because consequences. They said that they would arrest. They did. They said that they would suspend. And rather than face the consequences, most of them just simply walked away. We saw a few people in twist ties. So it's interesting. And Jesse, you were asking about that program that the president said that he wanted to set up. These are his words. It would be for those people who misunderstand what's happening with the Palestinians. He created a whole new group of people. The misunderstood and misunderstanding, the Jew-hating, flag-carrying, whatever, screaming Israel, go to hell, and then the pro-Israel group. So he's created a whole new bastion of people to stand outside. And my big question is, how many of these people are being paid to be there? When they left the encampment yesterday, far after 2 o'clock, they missed that deadline by a mile, but they didn't take the tents with them. So who's setting up the tents? Who's taking down the tents? And they're nice tents. I've had people tell me some of them are the best that some of the best sportsmen's places can sell. With inside, they got places where you can put your stuff. And I mean, it's like a little apartment in there. They meant to stay for a while. Who's paying for all this stuff? I want to know this, because if it's going to pop up everywhere, it's going to pop up everywhere. It won't just be the campuses.
To that end, we don't have this soundbite from John Kirby. We were trying to get it, Emily. But John Kirby, I'll paraphrase him here, was essentially asking for evidence of if there are outside agitators, saying that he had not seen any. Well, I want to give some evidence to Mr. Kirby, aggregated from various states and governors and elected officials, including right here at the mayor of New York. So let's provide this evidence, Mr. Kirby. Glenn Youngkin talked about non-student participants. Mayor Eric Adams talked about outside agitators. Northeastern University says they were infiltrated by professional organizers with no affiliation. University of Texas, significant participation by outside groups. University of Florida, outside agitators. And we have all of that evidence for our viewers, so let's scroll that as Emily speaks.
Right, of course. The only people who don't see that this is being organized by outside agitators are the president and his infinite myopic existence in the mainstream media who just apologizes for these pro-Hamas, Hamas sympathizers. Look, the reason why no one's doing anything is, number one, there's absolutely no teeth behind the attempts at deterrence, if that's what you even call them, but also because precedence was already set. We saw it back in Seattle when, if you all recall, protesters occupied a police precinct. And after 11 days of occupying the East Precinct of Seattle Police Department, what happened? The cops went in and emptied out their guns and emptied out their lockers, effectively surrendering. And 23 days later, Seattle Police Department got their precinct back from the protesters, I'm sure many of whom were outside agitators, organized and funded by people like Soros and people who refused to show their face and name. The point, however, remains that after that debacle, of course, the police chief resigned, everyone in leadership resigned. It was a toxic display of an absolute abdication of duty and responsibility. But the bottom line is, these children here, these Hamas sympathizers here, the people who pay 70 grand for an education or who pay nothing and just waltz on in and agitate everyone, they have an example, a case study to follow where the Democrats in leadership, the libs who are afraid of them all, do nothing. And so therefore, they'll probably occupy Columbia forever.
Kennedy, you know, if I would have been standing at the White House podium and what you're looking at would have gone on in President Trump's watch, it would have been an untenable position for me to say, I condemn anti-Semitism, but can't speak to anything beyond that. But let's listen to Karine Jean-Pierre and what the press lets her get away with. Play it.
I can't speak to him catching any of what's happening on TV. I can't speak to what's going on the ground. I know what what happened is just happening now, happening today. So I have no idea on how that's being dealt on the ground. We've been very consistent here about not commenting on personnel matters. That's something for Columbia University, obviously the board to speak to, and the president, right, to make that decision.
So we condemn, but no follow through.
I can't speak to that, Kaylee. I really appreciate you asking the question. The president has been very clear about this, and I can't speak to his clarity. He doesn't have a plan, and there are echoes of 1968 all over the place, including the fact that the Democrat National Convention is going to be in Chicago this year like it was in 1968. To Jesse's point, there was a point to the protests in the Vietnam War. They wanted to end the Vietnam War. They were very clear about their achievable objectives. There are no objectives here. They don't know what words like Zionism and divestment even mean, especially the Columbia students. You know, they have obviously lowered the bar so much for whoever they will let in there, and the ones who are on the outside are controlling the protests. A lot of them aren't Columbia students. They are outside, well-funded agitators.
That's right.
And how did Richard Nixon win in 1968? He had a very similar message to what Donald Trump is portraying now. So we are going to see more glaring similarities between now and the summer, and it's going to get worse and not better because we don't have actual leadership that's willing to stand up, not only in the White House, but in these campuses, especially at Columbia, where they are refusing to follow through on their word.
Fantastic historical reference. You could speak to that. Well done, Kennedy. I love it.